Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
So let's see what Bangladesh is actually. Bangladesh was a part of Pakistan from 47 to 71. It consisted the partition areas of Bengal and Assam from British India, and the people of this region were against the domination of Western Pakistan and the imposition of the Urdu language. Because on the basis of language, only these two places were bifurcated. Like they had a common religion that was Muslim, and but in Bangladesh, like which was Eastern Pakistan earlier, the people used to speak Bengali, and Western Pakistan they used Urdu language. So they began protest against the unfair treatment with the Bengali culture and the language. They also demanded fair representation in administration and a fair share in political power. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman led the popular struggle against West Pakistani domination. He demanded autonomy for the eastern region. In the 1970 elections in then Pakistan, the Awami League led by Sheikh Mujib won all the seats in the East Pakistan and secured a majority in the proposed constituent assembly. Sheikh Mujib was arrested, and under the military rule of General Yahya Khan, the Pakistan army tried to suppress the mass movement of the Bengali people. Thousands were killed by the Pakistan army. This led to a large-scale migration into India, creating a huge refugee problem for India. Now, the government of India supported the demand of people of East Pakistan for their independence and helped them financially and militarily. This resulted in a war between India and Pakistan in December 1971 that ended in the surrender of the Pakistan forces in East and the formation of Bangladesh as an independent country. Now, let's see what are the changes in Bangladesh. Bangladesh drafted its constitution declaring faith in secularism and democracy and socialism. And in 1975, Sheikh Mujib got the constitution amended to shift from the parliamentary to president form of government. Now you could see that he also abolished all the parties except own the Awami League. And he was assassinated in military uprising in August 1975. The new military ruler Ziaur Rahman formed his own Bangladesh National Party and won the elections in 1979. He was also assassinated, and another military takeover followed under the leadership of Lieutenant General H.M. Arshad, and he was later elected as president for 5 years. And students were in the forefront. Arshad was forced to allow political activity on a limited scale. And you could see that mass public protest made Arshad step down in 1990. And elections were held in 1991. Since then, representative democracy based on multi-party elections has been working in Bangladesh. Now, what exactly Bangladesh is like? Let's see the conclusion. Bangladesh was a part of Pakistan from 47 to 71, but it started protesting against the domination of Western Pakistan, imposition of Urdu language. A popular struggle against West Pakistan dominance was led by Sheikh Mujibur. In 70, the Awami League under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won all seats, but the government dominated the West Pakistani leadership refused to convince the assembly. The Pakistani army tried to suppress the movement, which led to a large number of migrations in India. The Indian government supported the demands of people of East Pakistan and held them, and this led to war with Pakistan in 71. And Bangladesh was formed as an independent country after the end of war. And a constitution was adopted by Bangladesh declaring faith in secularism, democracy and socialism. But government under Sheikh Mujibur amended the constitution and formed presidential form of government. Now, Sheikh Mujibur was assassinated and a military rule was established under Ziaur Rahman. He was also assassinated, and the rule of Lieutenant General H.M. Arshad started discontinuing the military rule, which we read in the previous slide as well. And a pro-democratic movement was again started, which led to election in 91. Since then, representative democracy based on multi-party elections has been working in Bangladesh. Now, let's move to the monarchy and democracy in Nepal. Nepal was a Hindu kingdom in the past and the constitutional monarchy in the modern period for many years. And common people of Nepal have wanted a more open responsive system of government, but the king with the help of the army retained full control over the government and restricted the expansion of democracy in Nepal. The king accepted the demand for a new democratic constitution in the year 1990 and because of strong pro-democracy movement. Now, people were against also. Let's see, rebellion during the 90s. The Maoists of Nepal were successful in spreading their influence in many parts of Nepal. They believed in armed insurrection and against the monarch and ruling elite. This led to violent conflict between the Maoist guerrillas and the armed forces of the king. So it was rebellion. And there was a triangular conflict. What was that triangular conflict? Like monarch and democrats and Maoists. Now there was a promulgation of new constitution. Promulgation is means the formal announcement of a new constitution 2072 by President Dr. Ram Baran Yadav. In 2002, the king abolished the parliament and dismissed the government. In April 2006, there were massive countrywide pre-democracy protests. The forces achieved their first major victory when the king was forced to restore the House of Representatives that had been dissolved in April 2002, and in 2008 Nepal becomes a republic. And Khadga Prasad Sharma Ole is the prime minister and Vidya Devi Bhandari is the president. Now, let's see what the Nepal exactly following. The tenure of democratic government in Nepal was very short and full of problems. In 1990s, Maoists of Nepal had influence in many parts. The Maoists wanted an armed rebellion against the king, and this led to violent clashes between the king's army and the Maoist guerrillas. For some time, there was a triangular conflict between the king's army, supporters of democracy, and Maoists. Parliament was abolished by the king in 2002 and sacked the government again in 2006. After the nationwide democratic movement, King Gyanendra was forced to reinstate in the House of Representatives. And this non-violent resistance was led by a coalition of seven parties, Maoist and social workers. Nepal became a democratic republic by abolishing the monarchy in 2008, and Nepal adopted new constitution in 2015. This was their new constitution adoption, and they became republic in 2008. Now, ethnic conflict and democracy in Sri Lanka. Let's see Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka got independence in 1948, but it faced a serious challenge from ethnic conflict leading to the demand for succession by one of the regions. And after its independence, politics in Sri Lanka, it was then known as Ceylon, was dominated by forces that represented the interest of majority Sinhala community. There was a case study, if you do remember in class 10, that there was a conflict between the Tamilians and the Sinhalas. And Sinhala was the dominating community over there. They had all collar jobs. They just announced Sinhala as their official language. So Tamilians were dominated by this majority. So there was a civil war over there. It was like domination of Sinhala community over the Tamilians, and Tamilians didn't get any chance to work in their like government, and they were not getting good opportunities in the education and all. So Sinhala nationalists thought that Sri Lanka should not give concessions to the Tamils because Sri Lanka belongs to the Sinhala people only. So that means VA people were promoting their own community. So they neglected the Tamilians, and concern led to militant Tamil nationalism. And from 1983 onwards, the militant organization, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam, LTTE, they had been fighting an armed struggle and with an army of Sri Lanka demanding Tamil Elam on a separate country for the Tamil of Sri Lanka. The LTTE controls the northeastern parts of Sri Lanka. In 1987, Government of India directly involved there, and India signed an accord with Sri Lanka and sent troops to stabilize relations between the Sri Lankan governments and the Tamilians. The Government of India has from time to time tried to negotiate with the Sri Lankan government of the Tamil question, and in 1989 the Indian peacekeeping force pulled out of Sri Lanka without attaining its objectives. And Norway is regarded as a peace helper rather than a peacemaker or a mediator. And Norway plays a role as facilitator, where it supports the warring parties to come up with a solution themselves. So, in the case with Sri Lanka, Norway had built closer ties with the island by its charity, work through NGOs, and not only this time but also at the time of tsunami. Now there is a question. In spite of the ongoing conflict, Sri Lanka had registered considerable economic growth and recorded high levels of human development, explained. Sri Lanka was one of the first developing countries to successfully control the rate of growth of population, the first country in the region of liberalized the economy. It has had the highest per capita gross domestic product for many years right through the civil war, and despite the ravages of internal conflict, it has maintained a democratic political system. Now let's do one picture based question also. Like, first question is your, what does this cartoon depict? And it is clearly written here. It depicts the Sri Lanka's ethnic conflict between LTTE and Sinhalas, and Sinhalas are the most dominating community over there. And what kind of balance in the Sri Lankan leadership trying to maintain in the cartoon? Sri Lankan leadership is supposed to balance both Sinhala Hardis and Tamil militants while negotiating the peace. And the third question is, which animal is representing LTTE and which is representing Sinhala? So Sinhala is represented by lion and LTT is represented by tiger. One more question is there. The tiger cartoon is related to which country? That is Sri Lanka. And what is the full form of LTTE? It is Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam, those who have demanded for a separate state for Tamilians, Sri Lankan Tamilians. And what was the main demand of LTTE? Regional autonomy in the area dominated by Tamils, especially north and the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. And the last question is, Rajapaksa is trying to perform which political act here in this picture? And he's trying to balance Sinhala hardlines and Tamil militants. One more picture based question is Indo-Pakistan relations. There are two leaders shown in the picture. Who are those? Manmohan Singh ji and Parvez Musharraf. And imagine any true problems that might be discussing how to solve Kashmir issue through mutual talks and how to control terrorism, and what changes can be made in visa formalities. Mention the outcome of their discussion to arrange a security level meeting of both and visiting of concerned ministers and to take steps towards agreement. So this is an unsolved question which you can give the answers from the support material. Now let's move to India-Bangladesh relations. Before that, let us see this picture once again. Gotpaya Rajprakasha is the president and Mahindra Rajprakasha is the prime minister. So the issues of tension, that means the negative aspects between the India and Bangladesh are like sharing of river waters of Ganga and Brahmaputra. This is one of the major problems faced by us. And Indian Democratic is not happy with the Bangladesh refusal to act an unlawful immigration to India. And Bangladesh support to anti-Indian Islamic fundamental groups. And Bangladesh refused to allow Indian troops to move through its territory to northeastern region as well. Now Bangladesh refused to export natural gas to India and allow Myanmar to do so throughout the territory. And the issues of cooperation, that means the positive aspects with the Bangladesh are, from the last decade, economic relations have been strengthened, and India's Look East policy does involve Bangladesh that links Southeast Asia via Myanmar. And cooperation and noticeable on the grounds of disaster management and environment issues. Area of cooperation is being broadened by identifying areas of common threat and by responding sensitivity to each other's needs. Now, India and Nepal relations. India and Nepal had very good relationship that has very few parallel in the world as explained below. And there is a treaty between the two countries that allow that citizens to travel to and to work in each other's country without visa and passport. And a large number of Nepalese are in Indian army and Indian citizens are doing business in Nepal as well. And trade, scientific cooperation, common natural resources, electricity generation and interlocking water management right have brought the two countries closer to each other. But in spite of this relationship, there are minor differences between the two countries. The Indian government has often expressed displeasure at the warm relationship between the Nepal and China and the Nepal government in an action against anti-Indian elements. So Maoist movement in Nepal is considered a growing threat to security of India, and which is given the rise of Naxalite groups in various Indian states from Bihar in the north and Andhra Pradesh in the south. And citizens in Nepal think that the Indian government interferes in their internal affairs as well. And it has designs on its river waters and hydroelectricity and prevents Nepal from getting easier access to the sea through Indian territory. There is a hope that the consolidation of democracy in Nepal will lead to improvements in the ties between the two countries. And the recent developments in Nepal are territorial disputes of India and Nepal, that is Limpudura and Lump Lake. Nepal has two tri-junctions with India and China. The one in dispute now is Lup Lake and Kalapani. And with the border of Uttarakhand with Nepal in 1816, the Swagli Treaty signed by Nepal and British India identified Kali River and is Nepal's boundary with India. And Nepal claims that river to Kalapani is west to the main Kali and thus Nepal has territorial rights to it. And India also holds that a rigid line to Kalapani is east in the border and the Kalapani falls within its territory. Now, how the India and Sri Lanka have the relationship? Let's see. The bone of contention between Sri Lanka and India have been ethnic conflicts in Sri Lanka. The Sinhalese majority has been following a policy of discrimination against the Tamils. As I have already told you, like there was a case study in class 10 where you have, like clearly it is mentioned in the books, like Tamilians are minority there, and the people, those who are from Sinhalese community, they are over dominating the Tamilians. That is why LTT was formed, and no collar job is being provided to Tamilians. So it was a great problem for Tamilians because they were not getting the actual opportunities which they were actually required. And Indian origin, the government of India tried to negotiate with the Sri Lankan government to protect the interest of the Tamilians, as it find difficult to remain neutral when Tamil are politically unhappy and are being killed. So in 1987 also something happened, like India sent the Indian peacekeeping forces, which was not liked by the Sri Lankans, and they treated this as an interference in their internal affairs. So Itne conflict is still going on, but India now prefer a policy of disengagement, as vice versa Sri Lanka's internal troubles. So India has now signed a free trade agreement with Sri Lanka. India has helped Sri Lanka in post tsunami reconstruction, thus the relation between the two countries has improved. Now, India and Bhutan relations, there is no major conflict between these two countries, and it has taken action without the guerrillas and the militants from northeastern India. And India gave development aid to the Bhutan, particularly in hydroelectric projects. And India remains to also biggest source of aid for the Himalayan kingdom. And Jigme Kesar Namgyal Wangchuk is the king, and Lotai Shering is the prime minister of Bhutan. Now, India and Maldives relation. Maldives remained warm and cordial in November 1988 when some Tamil mercenaries from Sri Lanka attacked the Maldives. The Indian Air Force and the Navy reacted quickly to the Maldives request to help stop the invasion. India has also contributed towards the island's economic development, tourism, and fisheries. Ibrahim Mohammed Soleh, the president of Maldives. Other conflicts of this region, Nepal and Bhutan, as well as Bangladesh and Myanmar, have had disagreements in the past over the migration of ethnic Nepalese and into Bhutan and the Rohingyas into Myanmar, respectively. And Bangladesh and Nepal have had differences over the future of the Himalayan river waters, and the major conflicts and differences through are between India and the other, partially because of the geography of region in which India is located centrally and is therefore the only country that borders the others. Once again, let's do the picture question. What is the cartoon provides that India and Pakistan are important SAARC members? The central seating position of India and Pakistan at the SAARC summit proves that the India and Pakistan are important SAARC members. And what are the members moving away? Any conflict between India and Pakistan leads to ineffectiveness of SAARC. Meetings are cancelled if there is any tension between India and Pakistan, and give reason of difference in the opinion of India and Pakistan leading to ineffectiveness of the SAARC. Kashmir issue and the cross-border terrorism has led to the difference in the opinion of India and Pakistan. One more question, and interpret the role of two key players who are also interested in the region, and is there any commonly between their perspective? So China and USA are the two key players in the region, and Sino-Indian relations have improved significantly during the last 10 years as shown in the cartoon, and the two leaders from India and China are exchanging agreements regarding trade, commerce and economy, and it is being represented by Pakistan, who wants China to stick to core issues. And the second cartoon shows the role of USA and South Asian region. The US has good relationship with both India and Pakistan, and therefore works as a moderator to India and Pakistan relation. In the cartoon, that US has been shown as a referee in tennis match between India and Pakistan. And both China and USA want to have economic ties, trade and commerce in the region in this age of liberalization and globalization. Now let's see what are the external powers and influential bilateral relations in South Asia. China and the United States remain key players in the South Asian politics, and Sino-Indian relations have improved significantly in the last 10 years, but China's strategic partnership with Pakistan remain a major irritant, and the demands of development of globalization have brought the two Asian giant closer, and their economic ties have multiplied rapidly since 1991. And if we talk about American involvement in South Asia, it has rapidly increased after the Cold War. The US has had good relations with both India and Pakistan since the end of the Cold War, and increasingly works as a moderator in India-Pakistan relations. And economic reforms and liberal economic policies in both the countries have greatly increased the depth of the American participation in the region. The large South Asian diasporas in the US and the huge size of the population and the markets of the region also give America an added stake in the future of regional security and peace.